I paid for her lavish life. She paid her lover with my business secrets and cut my daughter out like trash. That's when I turned the hunt on them. The Montana sunset painted the mountains in deep purple and gold as I stood on the balcony of my estate, whiskey glass in hand. Most visitors called this view paradise, but I've always known even paradise casts shadows. Tonight, those shadows felt particularly cold against my skin. I built Hail Elite expeditions from nothing, transforming a single hunting lodge into an empire of luxury expedition resorts spanning the American West. The ultra-wealthy pay obscene amounts to experience untamed wilderness without sacrificing comfort. They come seeking authentic adventure, telling themselves they're connecting with something primal. I just provide the stage for their performance. I'm not a dreamer. I never have been. Dreams are for people who don't understand how the world actually works. Behind every gleaming surface lies the machinery that keeps it polished. Behind every smile hides calculation. I learned this lesson early in business, but it took me longer to apply it at home. Richard, are you out there brooding again? Sophia's voice floated through the open French doors. Honey-sweet and practiced Sophia Blake. My wife of 8 years. Even now approaching 50, she turned heads everywhere we went. That aristocratic beauty, the graceful neck, those knowing eyes. She'd entered my life when I was still reeling from Adelaide's death, a single father struggling to care for Emily. Sophia had seemed like salvation. Then, Emily Carter. My daughter in every way that matters, though not by blood. Adelaide's child from her first marriage. The car accident that killed her mother also left Emily in a wheelchair at 6 years old. Most assume that's why I'm so protective of her, but they're wrong. Blood doesn't make family. Loyalty. Does Emily has more loyalty in her pinky finger than most people carry in their entire souls? My phone buzzed. Emily's face lit up the screen. Hey, sweetheart. I answered my voice, softening automatically. Dad, I just confirmed the last details for Sophia's birthday party. The venue is perfect. They've got the accessible entrance all set up so I can get everywhere without help. And wait until you see the cake design. I smiled. Despite the heaviness in my chest, Emily had spent weeks planning this surprise 50th birthday party for Sophia, desperate for some kind of connection with her stepmother. She'll love it. I lied, knowing full well that Emily's many attempts at building bridges had always been met with Sophia's particular brand of polite indifference. I recognized Emily's hunger for approval, the way she kept trying despite the subtle rebuffs. It was the same determination that had gotten her through years of physical therapy, through the Ivy League college, that initially didn't want to accommodate her needs. Richard's Sophia appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the warm light from within. I was wondering about that expansion project you mentioned, the one in Wyoming. The question felt casual, but the timing didn't. She'd shown zero interest when I first mentioned it. Still in the planning stages. I replied carefully. Why do you ask? Just curious. Oh, by the way, I'll be heading to Jackson Hole next weekend. Conservation Council meeting, third one in 2 months. I noted, watching her eyes slide away from mine. Networking is important, darling, she said with a practiced smile. Someone has to charm the donors. She disappeared back inside, leaving her phone on the table. As I moved to follow her, the screen lit up. A message notification from a contact labeled only VD. With a lock icon beside it, encrypted messaging. In my study, I activated the home network monitoring system I'd had installed when things first started feeling off. I'm not proud of becoming the kind of husband who spies on his wife, but I didn't build an empire by ignoring warning signs. I launched MirrorView, a sophisticated mobile tracking tool left over from my corporate takeover days. The Wi-Fi logs showed Sophia had accessed an anonymous banking platform 3 times this week alone. Not the actions of someone with nothing to hide. What I felt wasn't heartbreak. That would require surprise. No, what I felt was the cold focus of a hunter who has finally spotted his quarry's tracks in the snow. I played the first recorded call from her secured line, Sophia's voice intimate and hushed. Don't worry, he doesn't suspect a thing. This time we can make a clean withdrawal. I leaned back in my chair, eyes fixed on the screen. Just one question, Sophia. What exactly are you two planning to withdraw from me? 5 days before Sophia's birthday, the tension in our home had become a tangible thing. Each morning I observed her studied indifference whenever Emily's party preparations came up in conversation. "So the venue is all set for Saturday," I mentioned casually over breakfast, watching her reaction. "Saturday." Sophia frowned, stirring her coffee with deliberate slowness. "I thought it was Sunday." A small lie, but telling. Emily had confirmed the date with her at least 3 times. I noticed how Sophia's hand moved to her phone immediately afterward, tapping out a quick message before deleting it from her history, a habit I'd observed with increasing frequency. The call from Emily came that afternoon. Her voice, normally so composed, trembled with emotion. "Dad, something's wrong. The event coordinator, Trent Davis, just called me asking if we still needed wheelchair access at the venue," he said. She paused, fighting back tears. "He said Sophia told him not to bother with the ramp setup because no one would need it." The cold focus I'd felt earlier crystallized into something harder. "Emily, I need you to forward me everything. The guest list, vendor contracts, all communications with the event team." An hour later, I had my answer. Emily's name didn't appear on a single official document. The guest list, personally approved by Sophia, contained over 100 names. Colleagues, social climbers, even casual acquaintances from her tennis club. But not my daughter. From the very beginning, Sophia had planned a celebration where Emily didn't exist. I called Renee Foster, one of Sophia's closest friends, who was helping with the arrangements. After several minutes of awkward deflection, she finally cracked, "Look, Richard, I didn't feel right about it, but Sophia insisted that—" She hesitated before continuing. She said since Emily wasn't blood family anyway, there was no need to make special accommodations. The words landed like a physical blow. I hung up and sat in silence, memories suddenly rearranging themselves into a clear pattern. I recalled Sophia's masterful excuses whenever we were invited to events with Emily. The subtle complaints about accessibility. The performative concern about Emily feeling comfortable. Once, after too many martinis, she'd remarked with a laugh, "Without that wheelchair, we could do so much more together." I'd dismissed it then, not anymore. When Sophia returned home that evening, I was waiting in the living room. Emily's party files spread across the coffee table. "Want to explain why my daughter isn't invited to your birthday celebration that she's been planning for months?" Sophia's face registered surprise, then quickly composed itself. "There must be a misunderstanding. Of course she's invited." "Stop lying." My voice was dangerously quiet. "I've seen the guest lists, I've spoken to Renee, I know everything." The facade crumbled. Her eyes hardened as she dropped onto the sofa across from me. "Fine, you're always putting her first anyway. Have you ever stopped to remember who's actually your wife? Emily has spent thousands of dollars and countless hours planning this for you. That's not my responsibility." Sophia cut in, her voice suddenly cold. "Don't make me pretend anymore. I never signed up to be a caretaker." In that moment, I saw her clearly for perhaps the first time. The beautiful mask had slipped, revealing something ugly underneath. "Here's what happens now," I said, my voice level. "I won't be attending your party. As of tonight, your access to our joint accounts is revoked. You can't, I can, and I have. And Sophia Victor Dalton, is that who VD stands for in your phone? I'm having him investigated as we speak." The color drained from her face. I made 2 calls after she stormed out. The first to Noah Pierce, my CFO, ordering a complete audit of all company transactions for the past 2 years. The second to Perry Knox, former military intelligence, now my head of security, with simple instructions: find everything on Victor Dalton. The next morning I summoned Lloyd, my most discreet assistant. "I need a special birthday gift prepared," I explained, handing him a flash drive. "Something elegant. Make sure it's delivered to the venue just before the speeches begin." At 2 a.m., my phone pinged with a message from Perry. The attached photo showed Sophia and a tall, distinguished man exiting an upscale restaurant in Bozeman. His arm was around her waist, her head tilted toward him in intimate familiarity. Even from the grainy surveillance image, I could see the self-satisfied look they shared. Predators congratulating themselves on a successful hunt. Perry's message was brief. "They're a professional couple." I stared at the image, a single thought crystallizing in my mind. If they wanted to play predators, I would show them what it feels like to be prey. The morning of Sophia's birthday dawned clear and crisp. I'd arranged for Emily to meet me for breakfast at Hale Elite Expeditions headquarters in downtown Bozeman. I couldn't bear to spend another minute in the house that Sophia had contaminated with her betrayal. Emily arrived promptly at 8, navigating her wheelchair with practiced precision through the wide doorways I'd insisted on when designing the building. She wore a brave face, but I could see the hurt lingering in her eyes, the pain of rejection she'd become too familiar with throughout her life. "I brought those VR interface mock-ups you asked about," she said, pulling a tablet from her bag, clearly eager to focus on work rather than the party she'd been excluded from. I smiled, pouring her coffee exactly how she liked it. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about taking on a bigger role with that project. How does digital creative director sound? It's time people recognized your talent." Her eyes lit up briefly before doubt crept in. "Are you sure I mean with everything happening with Sophia?" "That's precisely why," I cut in. "Family is about trust, Emily, and you're the only family I have." At 11, Lloyd arrived carrying an exquisite gift box, midnight blue with silver embossing sealed with a ribbon that matched the exact shade of Sophia's favorite dress. I couldn't help but appreciate the irony. "It's ready, sir," Lloyd said, setting the package on my desk. "Special delivery scheduled for 3 p.m., just before the champagne toast." After Lloyd left, I opened the box one last time to verify its contents. A simple USB drive nestled in silk. I connected it to my computer to review what Perry had assembled. First came the surveillance photos. Sophia and Victor meeting at a secluded apartment in Bozeman, entering high-end restaurants with hands intertwined, leaving hotels in the early morning hours. Next were the bank statements showing mysterious transfers from both my personal accounts and company reserves to offshore entities. Most damning were the text messages Perry had recovered. Sophia to Victor. "The old fool and his crippled pet won't ever figure it out. Too busy playing happy family to see what's right in front of them." The final slide was a photo taken just that morning. Emily and me smiling over breakfast underneath a simple message. "Happy birthday from your real family." I closed the box, satisfied. The gift was truth wrapped in vengeance. At 4:17 p.m., Renee Foster called me, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. "Richard, I don't know what was on that USB drive, but my God." Sophia opened it during her speech, and it projected onto the main screen. Everyone saw everything. "Who exactly is everyone?" "Renee." "Over 100 people, half the Montana elite, the Harrises, the Montgomerys, the Westlakes, all your business partners." They left immediately after Richard. It was brutal. I felt no satisfaction, only the grim resolve of a necessary task completed, and Sophia fell apart completely. Tried to explain, but only made it worse. People are already talking. I thanked Renee and hung up. 3 hours later, I heard Sophia's key in the lock. She stumbled in mascara streaked down her face, hair disheveled, all traces of the polished socialite gone. The woman who entered our home was a ghost of her former self. "How long have you known?" she whispered, not bothering with pretense. "Since you thought you were smart enough to deceive me," I replied, watching her from my chair near the fireplace. She collapsed onto the sofa, a broken marionette. "You've ruined me." "No, Sophia. You did that yourself." "Richard, please, Victor manipulated me. He—" "Save it," I cut her off. "I'm not interested in your version of events unless it contains actionable intelligence." Her head snapped up. "What do you mean? I want everything you have on Victor. Names, accounts, meeting details, his entire network. Not because I forgive you, but because I'm going to burn it all to the ground. And if I help you—" There was a desperate calculation in her eyes now. "Then perhaps the FBI and IRS won't examine every moment of your life with quite so much enthusiasm when they come knocking." I leaned forward. "Make no mistake, Sophia. Your future has exactly 2 paths now: cooperation or destruction. Choose carefully." She left the room with slumped shoulders, a far cry from the confident woman who'd shared my bed for 8 years. My phone buzzed with a message from Noah Pierce. "Found evidence of transfers to Swiss banks through Costa Rica, scale much larger than anticipated." I stared at the screen, the realization hitting me like ice water. This wasn't just an affair. This was a coordinated attempt to strip me of everything I'd built. By dawn, I had assembled my inner circle in the secure conference room at headquarters. Noah Pierce, my financial tactician, Perry Knox, my intelligence specialist, and Clara Jennings, the most ruthless corporate attorney in the Northwestern states. Let's be clear about our objectives. I began standing at the head of the table. This isn't just about Sophia's betrayal. We're dealing with a coordinated attack on everything we've built. I laid out what we knew. Victor Dalton had systematically used Sophia to gather intelligence on my business operations while siphoning funds through an elaborate network of shell companies. Clara, what's our position with the prenup? I asked. She adjusted her glasses, precise as always. Ironclad infidelity clause is bulletproof. She walks away with nothing but personal items. However, she paused, looking directly at me. That's just defensive. I sense you want more. Much more. I confirmed. I want complete financial annihilation, not just protection. Retribution. Perry slid a folder across the table. Victor has been busy. He's previously partnered with Westridge Adventures and Summit Expeditions, your two biggest competitors. This isn't just an affair, it's industrial espionage. That changes the legal landscape entirely. Clara noted, a predatory smile appearing briefly. We have grounds for criminal charges now. I nodded. Here's how we play this. We use Sophia as our unwitting informant. She thinks she's saving herself, but she's really digging Victor's grave deeper, with every piece of information. Noah tapped his tablet, and financially. We set the perfect trap, one he can't resist. I turned to face the window overlooking the mountains. It's time to launch Hale Immersive Ventures. 2 days later, I announced the formation of a new subsidiary focused on virtual reality experiences for luxury adventure tourism. Emily was publicly named as the creative force behind the technology, her genuine talent making this part of the plan completely credible. Through carefully orchestrated leaks, we created the impression that I was desperately seeking capital infusion to keep the project afloat. Sophia, believing she was earning her way back into my good graces, conveyed this information to Victor along with hints about proprietary technology that could revolutionize the industry. Victor took the bait with an eagerness that would have been comical under different circumstances. He offered to invest $1.5 million, 3 times the minimum required stake, clearly aiming for controlling influence. More telling were the 3 additional investors who followed him in, all former business rivals of mine who suddenly showed remarkable interest in my new venture. The investment agreement contained my masterstroke, a special clause allowing for comprehensive financial auditing of all investors to protect intellectual property interests. It created a one-way flow of capital that would ultimately allow us to seize control of Victor's own assets using his investment money. Sophia continued playing her role unaware. She was now merely a pawn in a much larger game I assigned her to feed Victor, confidential updates, all carefully crafted misinformation designed to lead him deeper into my trap. 3 weeks in, she appeared at my office visibly shaken. Victor hasn't returned my calls in days, she said, pacing nervously. When I went to his condo, his assistant said he was unavailable for personal matters at this time. What's happening? He's served his purpose with you, I replied calmly. Now that the money's transferred, you're a liability. Her face crumbled. You promised you'd protect me if I helped. And you'll be safe, I said dispassionately, for as long as I need you to be. The fear in her eyes told me she finally understood her position, a disposable piece in a game much larger than she had imagined. By the end of the month, Noah reported that we had successfully gained control over the Costa Rican shell company, and most of Victor's offshore accounts. Perry had compiled enough evidence to guarantee federal charges. Clara had finalized the legal mechanisms to ensure that when the trap closed, there would be no escape. That evening, an email arrived from Victor Dalton himself. We need to meet. I have a new proposal. I leaned back in my chair, a cold smile forming as I read his message. After weeks of meticulous planning, I could almost feel the noose tightening around his neck. So you finally sense something's wrong, Victor. I murmured to the empty room. A meeting, I'll give you a meeting you'll never forget. 1 week after Victor's investment cleared, the panic began. Noah forwarded me a series of increasingly frantic emails Victor had sent to his financial team. 7 offshore accounts, ones he believed were untraceable, had been frozen pending financial security verification. He tried contacting 3 different international banks yesterday. Noah reported with barely concealed satisfaction. Each one told him the same thing. The freeze is completely legal under the terms he signed in our agreement. Perry's surveillance showed Victor pacing his penthouse balcony at 3 a.m., phone pressed to his ear. He knows he's caught in something, Perry said, but he hasn't grasped the full scope yet. Meanwhile, Sophia had transformed from co-conspirator to desperate pawn. She called me daily each time with increasing urgency. "Richard, we need to renegotiate my position," she pleaded during an unscheduled visit to my office. "I've proven my value. I deserve a real role in the VR project." I regarded her coldly across my desk. "Your role remains exactly what it is, providing Victor with the precise information I dictate when I dictate it." But he's starting to question me. He's asking for details I don't have. "Then improvise," I said. "Make him believe there's still a way out. That's your only value now." The following day, she returned mascara streaked down her face. In her trembling hands, she held photographs of airline confirmations and property documents. "He's planning to leave for Costa Rica," she whispered, "alone. I found these in his desk when he stepped out for a call. He's abandoning me after everything I did for him. I took the documents without comment. They would prove useful." "Richard, please." She grabbed my arm. "You have to protect me. I'll lose everything." I removed her hand as if it were something unclean. "You're not a victim here, Sophia. You're simply facing consequences." On day 10, Victor made his counterplay. Perry's surveillance team photographed him entering a private dining room at the Blackwood Club with 3 men. His fellow investors in my VR venture, all now experiencing the same mysterious account freezes. "They're planning to sue you," Clara informed me after reviewing the intelligence. "Claims of fraud and investment manipulation." "They're welcome to try," I replied before nightfall. Sophia called in a panic. "Victor wants internal documents, financial statements, development timelines, IP registrations. Says he needs them for legitimate business concerns, but he sounds desperate. Give him exactly what I provided you this morning." I instructed nothing more. By the 3rd week, it was time to accelerate the endgame. I personally responded to Victor's email requesting a meeting, suggesting an emergency reconciliation discussion at Hale Elite Expeditions headquarters. While we prepared for this final act, Noah confirmed we had gained control of the majority of Victor's legitimate financial holdings using his own investment funds. Perry had coordinated with the FBI, who were now ready with a comprehensive case file. Clara had prepared legal documents, ensuring that once the trap closed, every remaining asset would be permanently beyond reach. The morning of the meeting, I brought Emily to my office and finally explained the full extent of what had been happening. "I wanted to shield you from this ugliness," I told her, "but you deserve to see justice served." She listened intently, her analytical mind processing each detail. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "They underestimated you," she finally said, "but more importantly, they underestimated me." She opened her laptop and turned it toward me. On the screen was a virtual reality simulation, a detailed interactive reconstruction of Sophia and Victor's conspiracy, built from the evidence we'd gathered. "I've been developing this for weeks," Emily explained. "It documents everything. Their meetings, the money transfers, the lies, a living record of their betrayal that can be experienced rather than just read." I looked at my daughter with profound pride. This goes beyond revenge. It's a warning to anyone who might consider crossing us in the future. Exactly. Her smile held a steely edge I'd never seen before. "I'm calling it the price of betrayal." Core. At 11:45, security alerted me that Victor had arrived with his 3 co-investors. Sophia, as instructed, was waiting nervously in an adjacent room. FBI agents were positioned discreetly throughout the building, and Noah, Perry, and Clara were stationed in the conference room. Emily positioned herself beside me. Her wheelchair, a silent reminder of everything these people had dismissed and underestimated. At precisely noon, the elevator doors opened. Victor Dalton stepped out first, still projecting confidence, though I could see the strain around his eyes. Behind him followed his three accomplices, each wearing the defensive expression of men preparing for battle. Victor's eyes widened slightly when he saw Emily beside me, clearly not expecting her presence. I watched the minute calculation in his expression, reassessing, wondering if his intelligence had been flawed. As they entered the conference room, I glanced at my watch. 12 o'clock exactly, the moment when all our carefully laid plans would activate simultaneously. The door closed behind them with a soft final click. I knew with absolute certainty that none of them would walk out as free men again. Welcome to the last moments of your freedom, Victor. Victor's smug expression evaporated the moment Special Agent Dawson stepped forward from the corner of the room. The three investors froze in their tracks, while Sophia, who had been ushered in silently behind them, let out an audible gasp. Victor Dalton! Sophia Blake! Agent Dawson began, his voice carrying the practiced neutrality of a man who'd seen every form of white-collar criminality imaginable. I'm here representing the Financial Crimes Division of the FBI. We have substantial evidence of money laundering, fraud, corporate espionage, and conspiracy to commit asset theft. Noah activated the wall-sized display screen, which flickered to life with meticulously organized evidence, bank transfers, secret recordings, surveillance photos. But the most damning piece was the audio recording of Sophia's voice, crystal clear. Once Richard signs over control, we can drain everything. That old fool and his wheelchair charity case won't know what hit them. Victor lunged to his feet. This is entrapment. Hale manipulated everything. You put yourself in this trap, Mr. Dalton. Agent Dawson interrupted coldly. Every clause you signed was legal and binding. You simply failed to understand who was hunting whom. Sophia collapsed into her chair as the screen showed footage of Victor in his office, preparing travel documents and speaking on the phone. Once I'm settled in Costa Rica, cut all ties with Sophia, she's become a liability. The color drained from her face as she realized the full extent of her betrayal, by both Victor and herself. One of Victor's partners, a silver-haired man named Edmund Mercer, suddenly stood up. I'd like to speak with Agent Dawson privately, he announced, avoiding Victor's furious glare. I believe I have information that would be valuable to your investigation. The room descended into chaos as Victor launched into threats and denials. Through it all, Emily sat silently beside me, watching with clear, unflinching eyes. When the initial shock subsided, Emily slowly wheeled herself forward. The room fell silent as she positioned herself directly in front of Sophia. You once told Richard that I was a burden. She said, her voice steady and clear. You complained about having to accommodate my wheelchair. You called me the crippled pet behind my back. Each word landed like a precise surgical cut. But it was my technology that built the trap you walked into. My code that tracked your conversations. My design that will now strip away everything you tried to steal. Emily activated her tablet, and the room transformed. The VR display engaged, surrounding us with a three-dimensional visualization of their entire conspiracy. From the first secret meeting to the moment they entered this room, every lie, every theft, every dismissive comment about Emily projected in perfect detail around the very people who had spoken them. It was both masterful and merciless. Within the hour, Victor, Sophia, and two of the investors were led away in handcuffs. Clara stood as they were escorted out, her voice carrying the weight of legal finality. All assets connected to these activities have been frozen and will be forfeited, including the Costa Rica property, which has been transferred to the International Conservation Trust. It's now permanently protected wetland. As Victor was led past me, he turned, his eyes burning with helpless hatred and dawning comprehension of just how completely he had been defeated. You should have known better, Victor. I said quietly, no one touches my family without paying for it. 3 months later, Hale Immersive Ventures launched officially. The VR technology Emily had pioneered became the talk of the luxury tourism industry. Legitimate investors saw returns beyond their expectations, and my reputation was cemented as someone who not only built successful ventures, but protected them with unwavering resolve. Victor's case made headlines for weeks, serving as a cautionary tale in business schools and boardrooms alike. A letter arrived from Sophia 6 months into her sentence. She begged for a meeting for forgiveness for some acknowledgement of their years together. Emily and I discussed it over dinner. Some stains, Emily said thoughtfully, are best left to fade away in darkness. Seeing her would only give her what she wants, significance in our lives. I nodded in agreement and tossed the letter into the fire. 1 year to the day after Victor's arrest, Emily and I stood on the balcony of the Montana ranch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of amber and gold. The same view where I had first sensed something was wrong. Emily raised her glass. "It's over now, Dad." I looked at my daughter, brilliant, resilient, underestimated by those who couldn't see beyond her wheelchair, and felt a profound pride. "Not just over," I replied, touching my glass to hers. "Reborn in our own terms, no one will touch this legacy again." The setting sun cast long shadows across the valley below, reminding me of the shadows that had once hidden Sophia and Victor's true intentions. But unlike those shadows, these were clean and honest, simply the natural consequence of standing in the light. In this world, betrayal demands payment. I said more to myself than to Emily. And I, Richard Hale, always ensure traders pay with everything they have and more.